fortunate to have the association of His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj from Bhaktivedanta Manor in the UK. By the way, day before yesterday was Maharaj's birthday by the English calendar, but there would be the Vyas Puja celebrations also on the 3rd of January. So can we all loudly say happy birthday to Maharaj?
Hare Krishna.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
Maharaj!
Happy birthday, Maharaj.
Happy Krishna conscious birthday, Maharaj.
Jai!
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
So
Krishna.
let us all pray, as Kuldevika Mataji said, for his good health so that we can be showered with his association and blessings and teachings that we get from him. So again, on behalf of the School of Vedic Studies and all the assembled Vaishnavas, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, Maharaj. Happy birthday and many more to to come, and so that we can continue our association with you more and more. On that note, we have now today a session on an overview on the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and Maharaj would do this in 2 parts. Today will be part 1, and next Saturday would be part 2. Then after that, Maharaj would travel to India, so we may miss 1 week. We'll work that out and we will come back. But by next Saturday, when he does the part 2 on the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, actually we would have finished with Maharaj the entire Bhagavad Gita as it is. Haribol. So we would have that material on our YouTube channel, and we are also working on transcribing Maharaj's sessions, Sunaja Mataji and Anuswaya Mataji. And thank you very much for that wonderful service. And also the painstakingly Maharaj puts together the PowerPoints, which he then shares with us, which obviously are being shared with everyone. And I also request Maharaj's disciples who are joining us, kindly also, subscribe to the School of Vedic Studies. I'll send the link on the Zoom today. And also we have a SOVS group where we let you know, though Maharaj sends out the invites to all of you. But if you wish to be connected with us on that WhatsApp group, I will also send you the telephone number where you can then send in your message, and then we will add you to that group. So without much ado, we will request Maharaj to take us through the part 1 of the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, over to you.
Can you allow me to share screen?
Yes, I'm going to do that, Maharaj. Absolutely. And it is done, Maharaj.
So we are going to start with the first 6 chapters overview in 2 parts. Part 1 is 1 to 3. Part 2 is 4 to 6. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshusmritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Panchakalpatrubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the overview of the first 6 chapters. In the first six chapters, stress is given to devotional service. Yoginam api sarvesam. Of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is the best. Of course, we have to understand this Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the circumstances when the Battle of Kurukshetra was declared and Arjuna was ready to fight as a Kshatriya on behalf of his brother Yudhishthira Maharaj. And of course, on the other side, Duryodhana was there. And in the midst of the whole army and the situation, Arjuna become a little confused. So we'll go there through the verses.
Kind everyone mute yourself, please. Thank you. Sorry, Maharaj.
So the Yoga of Success, Karma Yoga, 1 to 6. So basically the first 6 chapters is based on yoga. And what is the yoga? Is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means actions which we perform. So it's a brief understanding that the Bhagavad Gita is the part of the great epic Mahabharata. It's got 100,000 verses, 8 parvas, and the Bhishma Parva is what is known as the Bhagavad Gita. So, of course, Vyasadeva wrote the whole Bhagavad, the Mahabharata, and within that, the 18th Parva is the Bhishma Parva, which is dedicated to the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So that is the Bhagavad Gita. This is a quick line of the dynasty of Kurus, and you can check it when I send you the PowerPoint. Basically, it is showing the whole connection of the family and how things come about in terms of the war. So there is some noise going on in the background.
Maharaj, I'm going to mute everyone. Kindly mute, please. Yeah, it's muted now.
Okay. Have you muted me also? Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, we can hear you.
Okay. So the Battle of Kurukshetra came about due to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. As I have titled this slide, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, cause of the battle. Duryodhana was very much ambitious to become the grand king or the emperor. And of course, his father, Dhritarashtra, was only a temporary custodian. After the death of Pandu, he was given in charge until the children of Pandu, namely Yudhishthira Maharaj, is suitable and grows up with proper training, then he would take up the kingdom. Of course, Duryodhana had other ideas, and then the conniving Sukuni created whole situation where the battle of Kurukshetra was declared. So in the first chapter, observing the armies on the battle of Kurukshetra, chapter 1. So the chapter 1 is basically, I've entitled Doubt. Doubt is briefly going through D for Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya, the conversation between the two. Then O is ominous results. U is uncertainty. P is bewilderment. And the final, towards the end, is the turning point in the chapter 1 where Arjuna then is a little bit clarified by his position and his bewilderment. And Krishna is clearing his position. So we'll go through that. So in the beginning of the chapter, as Prabhupada always writes, a little summary. As the opposing armies stand poised for battle, Arjuna, the mighty warrior, sees his intimate relatives, teachers, and friends in both armies, ready to fight and sacrifice their lives. Overcome by grief and pity, Arjuna fails in strength. His mind becomes bewildered, and he gives up his determination to fight. So the first of the doubt is D. D is Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. So text 1 to 12 is the text 1 is Dhritarashtra says, Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Now just imagine that in the time of the Mahabharata, they had such an advanced technology which we cannot even comprehend now. Although we have so-called gross level of technology where we can live telecast everything in one part of the world and you can see something directly happening as it is in another part of the world through the television media, through electronics. But in those days, Dhritarashtra was sitting in Hastinapur with Sanjaya, and Sanjaya being the disciple of Vyasadeva, he was blessed by the transcendental vision that he can see at a distance what is happening exactly as it is. So that is why Dhritarashtra is requesting Sanjaya that what is happening on the battlefield. Of course, Dhritarashtra was a little worried also that the outcome of this battle is not going to be very appreciative for anyone. And at the same time, Dhritarashtra understands to some extent that because Krishna is with Arjuna, then maybe his son will be defeated. So Sanjaya is explaining with the transcendental vision. In this slide, you can see a very nice depiction where Sanjaya is meditating and he's seeing the chariot of Krishna Arjuna in the Kurukshetra battle. And he's describing the scenery there. The topics of the topic discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya is described in the Mahabharata from the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that the philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage. From the immemorial time of the Vedic age, it was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. This is Prabhupada saying in the purport that the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita was conceived on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Of course, later in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does say that this knowledge which I am giving to you, Arjuna, is nothing new. I spoke this to the sun god Vibhishan. Vibhishan gave it to his son Iswaku. Iswaku gave it to his son Manu. And thereby it came down in the paramparic line. And due to the influence of time, it was somewhat lost. So I'm re-establishing this. And again, Prabhupada is saying the important aspect of the word dharma setra, a place of religious rituals are performed. It's significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjaya what they did. So in the state of modern understanding, we have IQ. IQ means intelligent content. But there is other kinds of intelligence and understanding, which is called EQ. So IQ, everybody is familiar with because it is masqueraded all over the place, that IQ is a measurement of one's intelligence. EQ is emotional content, how we deal with things emotionally. And then, of course, the final one is SQ. SQ, maybe most people have not heard of it, but those who are connected with Krishna consciousness will have a deeper understanding, is called spiritual content. So IQ, as the definition goes, intelligent content. Tests are famous for assessing logical, mathematical, and linguistic skills. We all wish we were at the top bracket of Mensa elite who have an IQ in excess of 140. Unfortunately, only 0.5% of the population make it. Developed intelligence empowers one to gather, process, and analyze information effectively. The intelligent can think in abstract ways and learn from the experience. Despite this, history shows that the intelligentsia or the intelligent class of people are not always the most successful, happy, or influential peoples in the world. So although we may have intelligence, we may be having powers of analyzing and understanding the world around us, but it doesn't give us the highest knowledge. So the next stage is emotional content. Emotional content is mostly used by the psychologists or the psychiatrists. Psychologists and the neurologists, neuroscientists are increasingly talking about the need of emotional content. Those with high EQ are emotionally balanced, able to maintain composure in the chaos of life. And the great of relating with people in appropriate and inspiring way. EQ empowers the successful utilization of IQ. So if you have a good high level of emotional content, then you can utilize the principle of intelligence, that which has been given to all of us by the grace of the Supreme Lord. People act irrationally when volatile emotions hijack their mental state. Thus, EQ measures the human side of life and our interaction with the immediate environment. So this is very important to understand that if you have a very high level of emotional quotient, or what we call in short is EQ, then you are balanced person. And when you have balance, then you see things in a right vision. And therefore, to understand spiritual knowledge, you have to have a very high EQ. Of course, spiritual content, whilst IQ and EQ help us to function in our present situation, SQ, spiritual content, is all about thinking out of the box. People often come to the point where they begin to question life, the universe, and everything. Who am I? Why I'm here? What is my purpose? What should I strive for? And what will make me happy? By exercising this SQ, an individual can discover deeper meaning, purpose, and direction in life. Often, we are busily engaged in chasing things without seriously considering whether they are necessary, fulfilling, and really adding value. Our daily endeavors are usually focused on asking the question, how? But SQ, spiritual content, is all about asking the question, why? So Bhagavad Gita is leading us to have a spiritual content, and because we have an angle towards spiritual content, the understanding of depth of analyzing everything spiritually, then your IQ and EQ can be properly utilized. So the O of the doubt is the omniscience result. Omniscience result means giving the worrying impression that something bad is going to happen, threateningly inauspicious. So text 13 to 20 discusses this. So in Prabhupada saying, in contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Dev, who is the leader of the Duryodhana's army, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicate that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Victory and fortune are awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. So of course, here in the Prabhupada is saying that if one is fortunate enough to have Krishna on your side, and of course the conch shells which were blown by Krishna and Arjuna are described here as transcendental, not mundane. So they are beyond the materialistic realm. So in text 15, Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchanjanya. Now, of course, we have to understand that every paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord has also got personality. It is not mundane. In the material world, we have inert objects which don't have any personality or life. But in a transcendental platform, they all have personality and they are living. So Krishna's conch shell is called Panchanjanya. Arjuna blew the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell, the Pundara. So each one had their transcendental conch shells which has got his own personality, which are not material and mundane. So of course, Krishna is blowing his conch shell, Arjuna is blowing his conch shell and declaring that now the war is going to take place. But before the actual war takes place, there is uncertainty. So in text 21 to 27, Arjuna is saying to Krishna, "Oh, infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desires to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." So Arjuna is thinking now that the war is going to happen, millions of people are going to get killed. Let me see who is there on both sides. So Prabhupada says in the purport, although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy, he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesha, the Lord of Lord of all the total senses. Now we must understand that Krishna has taken the position of a charioteer here, very subservient to Arjuna, although he's the supreme Lord. But Prabhupada is very nicely clarifying in the purport. He's saying that even though he's a charioteer and taking a subservient position to his devotee, his position, the ultimate position, is not challenged. He's still the supreme personality of Godhead. So therefore, we have to understand that Krishna can take any position in reciprocation to his devotee, just to please him and just to help him and assist him. So Krishna is always there to assist all his devotees. If Krishna is the object of your worship and you surrender to him, as Krishna says, yathamam prapiyante, that as you surrender to him, he will reciprocate with you in kindness. So therefore, it is very important that we understand this concept that surrendering to Krishna is not slavery, but it is a loving service and the opportunity to serve him in loving exchange. In text 24, Sanjaya is saying, O descendant of Bharat, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. So Krishna is brought the chariot in both the middle of the armies, and Arjuna is observing everything, and he's seeing that on both sides, his friends, relatives, his elders, and he is feeling a little bit compassionate towards this gathering and saying, how can I kill them? So in the verse, this verse is in the purport Prabhupada saying, in this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesh. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesh. Sleep also means ignorance. So Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee. So of course, the very, very significant of addressing Arjuna as Gudakesh means that he has overcome not just sleep, but sleep is akin to ignorance. And when you're in ignorance, and of course, you cannot have a very clear vision. So he was free from all ignorance, and therefore he was placed in a proper position to seek clarity. And why was he was free from ignorance? Is because, as Prabhupada says, his friendship with Krishna. Krishna is light. Krishna is knowledge. And when we are associated with Krishna, directly or indirectly, then he removes all ignorance. And when he's removing our ignorance, then of course we have clarity of vision and we see our path very clear. So in text 27, when the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion, and he spoke thus. So of course, Arjuna is saying all this thing, and with compassion, he's now speaking. And the next stage in our doubt is bewilderment. So text 28 to 30 is discussing about Arjuna's bewilderment. Arjuna is completely bewildered. He doesn't know what to do. He is now feeling a lot of pain in his heart because he's saying to Krishna that, dear Lord Krishna, if I continue in this war, what will happen is people will die. What is the purpose of killing everyone just to gain a piece of land, which I will lose it eventually anyway? There is no guarantee also that in this war, I will become victorious and I will get the piece of land which we are fighting for. So Arjuna is very much understanding philosophically here, and also is bewildered somewhat that what he should be doing. So Krishna is then going to give him further understanding. So Arjuna's doubt and his argument was one, compassion, which is described in text 27 to 28, happiness, 30 to 35, destroy family, society, in text 37 to 43, and sinful reactions. Of course, he's saying if I kill all these kinsmen and everyone in this battle, then there is going to be some sinful activities here of killing, which is also not good for me. And as a Kshatriya, he understands the principle that unnecessary killing is not advocated in the scriptures or nor in the dharma of a Kshatriya. So Arjuna is giving a very good argument here to Krishna. But in text 28, Arjuna is saying, my dear Krishna, seeing my friend and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering, my mouth drying up. So in text 29, my whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Text 30, Arjuna is saying, I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I am seeing the cause of misfortune. O Krishna, O killer of caste demon. So of course, Arjuna is now describing his position, his feelings to Krishna, hoping that Krishna would understand his position or his disposition. And then Krishna will say, okay, Arjuna, let's go. Forget this battle and we'll find out another solution. So in our situation also, we have existential confusion. In all of our lives, we are having this. At a point in life where questions, meanings, purpose, and the future is existential confusion is there. So if there is no guidance, then what happens? Confusion and insecurity is there, and existential crisis is there, then depression sets in. Now, if you have a proper guide, as Bhagavad Gita explains, Adhiti Prani Pratena Pariprashana Sevaya, you approach a bona fide spiritual master who is enlightened by the subject matter of life and its own existence. So therefore, the spiritual master who is enlightened in the knowledge, he can give you right guidance. And if right guidance is there, then clarity and purpose is there, an existential awakening is there, and of course, in the end, happiness is there. The right guidance knows you, loves you, and can help you. Help you means that when we take ashraya or the shelter of the spiritual master. Snehasya means that the spiritual master will shower upon you loving affection. And of course, Sajatya means that he knows you and therefore he will know the confusion you have and he will clarify all your confusion. So this is my understanding. If you are broken, just heal. Don't cry about it. If you are lost, then just seek. And if you seek, then you'll find your directions. But there's no point just saying, I'm lost, I'm confused, I don't know what to do. You have to make an endeavor. And if you make an endeavor, then you'll find a way out. And if you're stuck, just explore. Explore your surroundings, explore your mind, and you'll find a way out. And if you're overthinking, just learn from that aspect of overthinking, because overthinking sometimes can confuse you so much so that you cannot see clarity. So as I said, if you have proper direction, you have clarity, and then you can learn from your experience. The last key of the doubt is turning point. This is the turning point where Krishna is now going to counter-argue with Arjuna and explain to him the situation which is there, and he will clarify his position. And that is why this section from 31 to 46 is called the turning point. So text 32 to 35 is explaining this. O Govinda, of what avail to us are the kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield. O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, father-in-laws, grandsons, brother-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them? Even though they might otherwise kill me, O maintainer of all living entities. I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? So here Arjuna is saying all his feelings in his heart, he's seeing all his kinsmen on the battlefield, and he's saying, what is the purpose of killing them and gaining this earth? So even if I get the three worlds, I'm not interested. So Arjuna is not interested. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. So Arjuna is saying that even if we kill the kinsmen, it will bring disrepute and irreligion, as Krishna explains, will be cause of Varna Shankara, unwanted progeny, and therefore there will be disturbance on the planet, and the peacefulness will be ruined, as we are experiencing now, that in the present day situation in the world, there is so much irreligiosity, and due to that, there is unhappiness and unrest. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. So Arjuna is now saying to Krishna, now, please Krishna, I have enough. I cannot handle this anymore. Let us just go from here. And Krishna is saying, calm down, Arjuna. And by Krishna's presence, Arjuna is calmed down a little bit. The purport is saying, while observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive such knowledge. So of course, here Krishna is saying to Arjuna, calm down, relax. And of course, wherever Krishna is, there is calming and soothing effect. So therefore, when we go to the temple, sit in front of the lordships, you will see it will have a very calming effect on your mind, and all your disturbedness will be rested, and you will see peacefulness in your mind, in your heart. So here, Prabhupada is saying, such a kind-hearted, kind and soft-hearted person who is in devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive this knowledge. What knowledge? The transcendental knowledge of going back home, back to Godhead. So chapter 2, as Prabhupada is entitled, Contents of the Gita Summarized. So basically the whole 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita is summarized in chapter 2. So if you understand the context of chapter 2, then it will free us from all anxieties. You don't have to go through the whole Bhagavad Gita because everything is summarized there. But of course, sometimes summary is not enough for us, so we have to have in-depth understanding and study. So therefore, Krishna is speaking further 16 chapters of clarification. So chapter 2, I have entitled Gita, G-I-T-A. G for Guru, I for identity, 2 for the 2 duties which we have to perform in this life, and of course A, Atmaram, when we are fully satisfied with knowledge and we can progress further. So first one is Arjuna is saying, Arjuna submits to Lord Krishna as his disciple, and Krishna begins his teaching to Arjuna by explaining the fundamental distinction between the temporary material body and the eternal spiritual soul. The Lord explains the process of transmigration, the nature of the selfless service to the Supreme, and the characteristic of a self-realized person. And the purport Prabhupada is saying that this is where now Krishna is taking over and saying, now Arjuna, I'm going to clarify your doubts. I'm going to free you from your bewilderment. And I'm going to show you light of knowledge and the right path. So of course, Krishna said, now I will tell you what to do, Arjuna. Listen to me. Be careful. I am going to lead you out of this bewildered situation. And once I speak to you, you will know your duty as a Kshatriya. So the first is G for Guru. And of course, Krishna is acting here as Arjuna's Guru. In text 1 to 12, it's explained that Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you are such a learned person. How is these impurities, these thoughts come in your mind? It doesn't lead you to freedom, but it leads more to infamy. So Prabhupada is saying in purport, Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. Absolute truth is realized in 3 phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal, all-pervasive spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and of course Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So 3 levels of understanding the Supreme Lord: impersonal, Brahman, Paramatma in the heart, and of course the personality himself, the Supreme Lord. So the Brahman is depicted all around us, we see, is an energy form of the Lord. And of course, Prabhupada says that wherever there's energy, then there should be the source of the energy. And the source of energy is none other than the Supreme Lord. So in the beginning, of course, even if we do not understand the Supreme Lord, at least we see the vastness of nature, the greatness of the spiritual sky all around us, also the material sky, I suppose. And therefore we see the greatness that there must be someone who is greater than what we can experience in our own mundane understanding. Then slowly, as we begin to meditate on the Supreme, we can understand the Lord in the heart, the Paramatma. And as Krishna explains that he resides in the heart of every living entities, eventually, if we are properly situated under the direction of a spiritual master, then he will lead us to the next stage of understanding that the Lord in the heart is accompanying us. And as we understand the Lord in the heart, then clarification comes in the heart, and the knowledge is now more deeper. And as the deeper knowledge comes, then you actually understand the personality of God at Bhagavad. So Arjuna is saying, I am now confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So at this stage, Arjuna is very confused. He's losing his composure, but at least he is intelligent. And what is that intelligence? As I described earlier on, spiritual content. He had that spiritual insight, and therefore he is now approaching his senior that please instruct me. You are better positioned, in a better situation to explain this ignorance which has come over me. So here he's saying, I am now your disciple, a soul surrendered to you. And this is what Krishna is looking for in every single person. As soon as we approach the Supreme Lord and we pray to him, dear Lord, I am suffering this world. I want to surrender to you. Please instruct me. And as soon as you make this prayer to the Supreme Lord, then Supreme Lord says, now that you are asking me for help, I am going to extend my hand and help you. So Krishna gives a helping hand to those who pray to him for a helping hand. And therefore it is very important that we pray to Krishna at all points and ask for his help and his guidance. Because Krishna says, as Prabhupada also explains from the Vedas, that Krishna is like two birds sitting on a tree. One bird is you, the person, who's enjoying the fruits of his labor. The other one is just a witness observing. But the witnessing bird will not interfere with the person who is enjoying the fruits of his labor. So similarly, Krishna in our heart will not interfere with us, but he will be there because he is the source of our energy and our consciousness. But he will not interfere with you. Only time when Krishna takes over is that when you actually turn to him and say, dear Lord, I've had enough. I am now losing composure here. I'm completely bewildered. Please help me. And then, of course, the Supreme Lord comes to your aid. So then Krishna is saying to Arjuna, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So Krishna is explaining now to Arjuna that we have been existing forever. There is never a time when we did not exist, or nor in the future will not exist. We will always exist forever, because the spirit soul doesn't die. It's just the body which succumbs to death and the changes of this material world. And this very nature of this world, that as you are born, you grow, and then you go age, and at the end, you give up your body, and the spirit soul moves on to the next journey. So the Prabhupada is saying, by nature's own way of complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step, there is perplexity. And therefore, it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexity of life, which happens without our desire. So this condition which we are placed in material world is always perplexed. We are always confused. Sometimes, of course, we have some materialistic goals. We think that we have found our path. But when you achieve that material goal, then what? Then again, you're perplexed. So it is said which happens without our desire. So these things are not happening with our desire. It is happening without our desire, because it is very part and parcel of this world, as we studied in previous chapters or chapters before this, that all actions we perform in mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness will cause many interactions, and therefore will be cause of our suffering in this material world. So what happens when we have to make a decision? Most of the time, we have indecision, because we have no real knowledge or understanding. And due to indecision, there is indiscretion. And when there's indiscretion, then at that point, if you are intelligent enough, as I mentioned early on, EQ and SQ, then you proper utilization of your IQ, and that is you do introspection. And when you do introspection, then you get inspiration. So inspiration, where do you find inspiration to make the right decision? Scriptures, the guidebook. Spiritual teachers, the outer guru. Super soul, the inner guru. So the scriptures, the guidebook, of course, we have this, many scriptures at our disposal. We have the Bhagavatams, with the Puranas, with the Mahabharata, we have the Ramayana. We have unlimited treasure house of guidebooks in terms of scriptures, which can free us from our doubts and our ignorance. And who are the person who will teach us to understand the scriptures properly? Is the spiritual master, who manifests as a person in this material world. So he is an outer guru. And then there is, of course, our eternal guru, the inner guru, the super soul, or the Lord himself. So in connection with the scriptures, the spiritual teacher, and the super soul in the heart, we can find inspirations, and then we can make our move forward. So the next of the Gita in chapter 2, the I of Gita is identity. Identifying who we are, because there is confusion about who we are. Text 13 to 30 explains this. So existential crisis is there, and we are confused. When we are confused, then what happens? We begin to question, who am I? Why am I here? And what's my future? So Krishna is explaining in the 13th text. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that we are going through different phases of life, and we have experienced our childhood, our youthhood, and now we are in middle age or old age, and eventually, of course, death will come, and the soul continues into his onward journey. And a sober person with understanding is not bewildered by this change, but he has a clear understanding what is his destiny, whether another body or the spiritual world. So the gross body is the body of the Panchabhuta, which we experience ourselves. Then the subtle body is, as Prabhupada explains, the subtle body is like putting clothes on a mannequin. So if you can just, for example, just imagine a mannequin is that subtle body, and you put the clothes on the body. Then the clothing on the mannequin will take up the shape of the body, and then you will have a form which will appear in the clothing, but the clothing is formless. So in other words, the Panchabhuta, the five energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, doesn't have a combination of form. But when you combine all this with the subtle body, then you begin to have a shape. And that shape, of course, is described by Krishna that there are 8,400,000 species of life, and each species of life has a particular clothing which surrounds the soul. And then you take up a body, and according to the body you have taken up due to your past reactions of activities, then you act according to that body. So Krishna is further saying, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of Sai and of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Of course, as we explained that you have the body, and according to the body you act in a particular way, and as you act in a particular way, then you will either feel happiness or distress. But Krishna is saying here that all these are temporary because they come from sense perception. The senses lead you to lead you astray, thinking here is happiness, there is happiness, and you go here, there, and everywhere. But obviously you find that there is disappointment. So Krishna is saying, become tolerant to all this disturbance. They are coming and going, and what comes will also go. So don't be worried about these things. Rise above this. So the subtle body is the external body, which is made of, or rather the subtle body is mind, intelligence, and ego, as Krishna explains. Then we have the gross body, which is the body made of earth, air, earth, water, fire, ether. And then we have the super soul. So in the combination of all these, we become in existence in the material form. And if you understand this, the subtle body, the gross body, and the soul, then this is called the science of self-realization, that you will have a deeper understanding of realization of the self, that you are not this body, but you are spirit soul, and spirit soul is different from material nature. So the key of the Gita is showing the two duties now. So up to this point, we can understand, as I said, the science of self-realization we've understood. So once you understand the science of self-realization, you understand yourself, who you are, and what is the purpose of your being here, then you have duties. What are your duties? The duties are described in text 31 to 53. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are the 4 steps which a man has to perform. If it's performed properly, then you will be led out of darkness and you will be led to liberation. So the way of the way of cheating, which begins with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So of course, the first principle, dharma, if your dharma is not correct, then artha and kama will confuse you. And because of artha and kama is confused, then the so-called moksha will be eluding. So the principle of dharma is what? As Prabhupada explains, that the dharma in real sense of the Sanskrit word is one's natural characteristics or natural qualities. But of course, there is no word in English language for dharma. So Prabhupada is using the word religiosity. But religiosity sometimes means religion, and that confuses someone with religion and dharma. So to clarify dharma, Prabhupada is saying that to have a practical understanding, he's saying dharma of water is to make things wet. Dharma of fire is to burn. And therefore the dharma of the spirit soul or the living entity is to be the servant of the Supreme Lord. Jivere Sarupohoye Nitya Krishna Das. That this dharma, the eternal dharma, being the servant of Krishna, has been forgotten by us due to our contact with the material world. And therefore we have confused dharma. And therefore Krishna is clarifying this position. So here there are the understanding in this slide that if you have proper guidance, then it will lead you to the highest platform of self-realization. And if you are not under the care of proper guidance and you are just following your senses, then it will lead you to the hellish regions. So dharma, in one sense, is called duty, religion, nature, the right way of living. Then 2 dharmas. Swadharma is worldly duties. And Sanatana Dharma is spiritual duty. So we have to have a very clear-cut understanding that as long as we're in the material world, we have to do our Swadharma, our worldly duties, because we cannot neglect our worldly duties. As we explained before, the Varnashram system, whether you're a brahmachari, whether you're a grihastha, you're a vanaprastha, or whether you're a sannyasi, whether you're a Sudra, whether you're a Vaishya, whether you're Satriya, whether you're Brahmana. 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams, whichever category you belong to, you have to do your duties in relation to the world. Then higher than that is your Sanatana Dharma, your eternal Dharma, which is your spiritual duty. So when we take proper guidance from the spiritual master and the scriptures, the guiding books, then we will have a proper understanding of our duty and how to perform our duty. Give equal emphasis to both Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. So there are two kinds of Swadharmas, specific duty. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's Swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. So this is in the purport Prabhupada saying that we have to have a distinction between the Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. And when you have a proper understanding, then both you will execute with proper understanding, therefore will lead you to liberation. In text 47, Krishna is saying, you have right to perform your prescribed duty. Of course, as I said, we all have our duties to be done. So Krishna is saying, you have to do your duties. You have a right. There is no that you are exempted from it. It is your right. So Krishna is saying here, you have a right to perform your duty, prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of the activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So of course, Krishna is saying, you must perform your duty, karmanayavadhikarastu ma phaleshu karachan, that you are by right, you have to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the results of it. The results are coming by the grace of the Supreme Lord. So in text 48 saying, perform your duty equipoise, Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Bring balance, as we discussed previously, that Krishna is saying, be equipoise. Don't be disturbed by success or failure, because these are part and parcel of life in the material world. Sometimes there's success, sometimes there's failure. But if you are equanimity in equipoise, then that is called the yoga of the highest understanding, that you are not disturbed by all these things. So we are sometimes torn between our Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. So it's a balancing act. You have to do a balancing act. Now, if you do the balancing act, as this slide very nicely depicts, that there is a scale, and on the scale, if one is weighing heavier than the other, then it's up or down. So you have to balance it. Now, how do you balance your Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma? I generally say that when you feel very content and satisfied, then that means you have found your equilibrium. You have found your balance between Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. But if there is some disturbance of the mind, there is some unhappiness, and you are restless, then you know that this balance is not there. So seek out your own balance. Each and every individual has his or her balance. And there's a saying in English, one man's food is another man's poison. And therefore, what may be right for me may not be right for you. So therefore, everyone has their own individual balancing act. You have to figure out your Sadharma and your Sanatana Dharma, your duties to the world and your duties to yourself in terms of spirituality. And when you have this proper understanding and you are feeling very content, self-satisfied, then you have found your balancing act. Now, Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. So, of course, that this yoga is very important to understand. The word yoga here is a definition given by Krishna, saying that control your senses and concentrate your mind upon the Supreme Lord. And then when you are fully absorbed in the Supreme Lord and meditating on the Supreme Lord, then controlling your senses comes easy. And therefore, then the disturbing senses will be under control. Otherwise, our senses will be like a monkey sitting on a tree. On one branch is sitting there, and there's a very nice fruit hanging out of the branch. And the monkey takes the fruit and he bites. And all of a sudden, he sees another fruit, another branch. So he dumps that and goes to the other one. And he keeps jumping from branch to branch to branch to branch, thinking this is better, that is better. But if he's on a tree which is full of fruits, all the fruits of that tree would be the same. Because if you are on a mango tree, you only find mangoes in the mango tree. If you are on an apple tree, you only find apples on it. You won't find apples and mangoes and oranges on the same tree. So therefore, our senses are like that, thinking that I'm going to go here, there, and everywhere and try to enjoy and satisfy. But you won't get satisfaction. And therefore, Krishna is saying here, yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. When we follow this, then we are in control. The last A of Gita, this Atmarama, means brings us to a proper balance of understanding, contentment, as I explained earlier on. And when you're content, then you can go forward without any difficulty. So this is explained in text 54 to 72. And in 54 text, Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk?" So Arjuna is asking that you ask me to concentrate my mind on you and focus on you, control my disturbing senses. But then what are the symptoms? How do I know that these things are happening? So Prabhupada is giving in the purport. One can know his specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how a man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and matter relating to him. So Prabhupada is very nicely saying here that a fool is undiscovered until he speaks. As soon as he opens his mouth, then he speaks all sorts of garbage, and we know that he's a fool. So Prabhupada is saying in the purport, the immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to Krishna. So it's very clear. Prabhupada is guiding us in how to understand that. So in text 55, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness." So Krishna is very clearly underlining here that when one gives up the varieties of desires for sense gratification, and which is a reason for mental concoction, when you arise, then you will find yourself that satisfaction is there in the self, and therefore you are on a pure transcendental consciousness and free from the entanglement of desires leading you from one tree to another tree, thinking this fruit is better, that fruit is better, and there's no satisfaction. So in the next text, Krishna is saying, one who is not disturbed in the mind, one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, one who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a sage of steady mind. So when one is not disturbed in the midst of threefold miseries, these miseries are there in this world. It's part and parcel of this world. Is automatic qualities and characteristic of this material world as described by Krishna. So Krishna is saying that if you are not disturbed by these things, as we from the earlier verse, Matras pasas tu kuntiya, that this happiness and distress are coming like seasons, winter and summer season, they will come and go, but do not be disturbed. And one who is not elated or disturbed by these things, then Krishna is saying he's free from anger and fear, and is called a sage of steady mind. So in the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So when we do not become disturbed by these things, whether happiness comes, distress comes, we should not become disturbed, but we should tolerate. Also Krishna says, tam titik swasta bharata. We become tolerant of these things. And when you become tolerant, then you'll be firmly fixed in the knowledge of the higher understanding that these things are coming and going. But if we become disturbed by it, then we become confused, and then we are led astray, and then we become very much unhappy. So Krishna is saying, be firmly fixed in perfect knowledge and understand that these things are just temporary. It's not permanent. It's not going to be there forever. And the Prabhupada is saying, there's always some upheaval in the material world, which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is not affected by good and evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of dualities. So, as explained also before, that as you know, and Prabhupada is emphasizing here, in the material world is of the very nature is of dualities. For every good there is bad. For every night is day. For every heat there is cold. So equal and opposite is there all around us in every aspect, and therefore we should not be disturbed by this. So purity is our immunity. So when we become pure, then we become immune to all these things. Overcoming the three inevitable sufferings. Now, if we have purity in our heart, then we are immune to these things. And what is purity? Understanding Krishna and becoming transcendental to this material world, as Krishna is advising us, that in this yoga process, become transcendent to these threefold material miseries. Overcoming the three inevitable sufferings, which we experience them as Adidevic, miseries from nature, Adhyatmic, miseries from other beings, and Adhyatmic, miseries from other bodies and minds. So don't worry, be happy. We are in the process of loading the right path. And as you follow this process of Krishna consciousness from A, then you go to B, then you go to C, then D, and the whole alphabet leads you to the end Z. So you go from A to Z, and when you reach Z, you are fully loaded with full self-realization. So in order to be properly situated, we should not worry about the Devics, miseries from nature, the Bhautik, miseries from other beings, the Atmic, miseries from other bodies and minds. So this is a slide which is depicting the Devic. Sometimes nature is very cruel and untoward things happen which are beyond our control, and it really freaks us out. And of course, other living entities. This slide, I like this slide because nobody likes mosquitoes, and when mosquito bites you, it is very irritating, and it is also causing a cause of disease condition. So we get suffering from living entities all the time, everywhere we go. And of course, from the mind, there is grief, there's anxiety, phobia, post-traumatic stress, shame, panic, depression. All these are caused for the mind. So if the mind is properly situated, then we will become free from our anxieties. And therefore, Krishna says, transcend all these things, and you'll be free from Adhyatmic, Adhibhautik, Adhidevic. And how we can get there is that first, there is the transcendental storehouse of knowledge, scriptures, as I mentioned earlier on. And the knowledge is in the three divisions. The three divisions of knowledge is 1, Sambandha, relationship; 2, Abhidaya, practice; and 3, Prayojana, perfection. Sambandha is to understand your relationship. What is your relationship with the Supreme? And before you can understand your relationship with the Supreme, you have to understand who you are. When you recognize yourself that you are not this body, you are spirit soul, and therefore the spirit soul has very direct connection with the Supreme, then that relationship is established as Sambandha. And when the Sambandha is established, then Abhidaya takes place. And what is Abhidaya? You put this in practice, your relationship with the Lord. Serving the Lord, and Lord serves you. As you serve the Lord will serve you, and He will free you from your darkness. As you are reciprocating with the Lord in practice, then Prayojana comes, which is perfection, that now you have reached the highest stage of perfection where you are completely transcendental to this material world. And this transcendental position is described as a lotus flower in the water. When the lotus flower is growing in the water, even the water splashes on the lotus flower, it doesn't get wet. It still remains dry. So we are in the material world, but we are not affected by the material world. As mentioned earlier on, the dualities of the material world will not have any impact on us, because now we have reached the highest stage of perfection. Sambandha, relationship, abhidaya, how to put it in practice, and then prayojana, the perfection. So in this world, we are acting first and ask questions later. So world is teaching us, don't worry, just act. Worry about things afterwards. Just like credit card. Companies are calling you saying, we are offering best credit cards. Take credit cards, buy as much as you want, fulfill all your sense gratification, pay later. But that is a very dangerous situation to be. So better ask first, act later. Because when you are clear of your position and when you have proper knowledge and then you act on that later on with proper sound knowledge, that is called spiritual teachings. So we have to distinguish between worldly teaching, mundane things, and spiritual teachings. Therefore, Krishna is saying, understand the higher purpose of life. So chapter 3 now is called Karma Yoga. So up to this point, we are learning what is our duty, the twofold duty, Swadharma and Sanatana Dharma. Now, how we act upon is in the chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is actually now leading us stage by stage how to become free from our entanglement, our bondage. And this slide depicts all the people sitting there every morning, rushing to work, doing their karma. You know, as Krishna says, do your duty, but they do not know what their duty is. So they're just blindly doing their duty with the expectation they will get paid, and with pay, they will fulfill their sense gratification and they will bring happiness. But it's going on since the beginning of time. You go to work, earn money, buy things, enjoy, and then get disappointed. It doesn't change. So the third chapter is called the tree. The tree means T for Tyaga, R for the rungs of ladder, E for exemplary, and E for enemy. So the first stage of the third chapter is T, Tyaga, text 1 to 9. Prabhupada explains in this beginning of this chapter, everyone must engage in some sort of activity in this material world, but actions can either bind one to this world or liberate one from it. By acting for the pleasure of the Supreme without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma, action and reaction, and attain transcendental knowledge of the self and the Supreme. So this is the summary of the third chapter, which Prabhupada is summarized very nicely. So we'll go on to the first T of the tree, this Tyaga 1 to 9. So we find that we have to forsake many things for gaining something good. As there is saying in English, sorry, not in English, but in Hindi, there is saying, kuch paane ke liye kuch khona padte hai. So English translation is, to gain something, you have to lose something. So I give this example that if you have a nice glass of water, which is full of nice, clean, pure water, but then someone comes with nectarine juice and says, my dear friend, do you like some juice? And you look at the nectarine juice and it says, yes, it seems nice, looks nice, smells nice, and obviously from past experience, it will taste very nice. Yes, I would like some. So what do you have to do? You have to empty the glass of water. And once you have emptied it, then you fill it up with nectar. So to gain something, you have to lose something. That is the principle of Bhagavad Gita. So in text 1, Arjuna is saying, oh Janardhan, oh Kesava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive activities? So Arjuna is now questioning Krishna, and Krishna is saying that do your duty. You are a Kshatriya. You must pick up your bow and do your duty as a Kshatriya. And then Arjuna is saying, Janardhan, okay, Kesava, why? Why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. So of course, Krishna has explained higher intelligence is better. With intelligence, you will know right and wrong, and what to do, what not to do. So, and of course, as Krishna explains, the fruitive activities is going to bind you in action and reaction. So Arjuna is questioning, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? So of course, as Krishna explains, the fruitive activities is going to bind you in action and reaction. So Arjuna is questioning, Then Krishna is saying, Arjuna is saying, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be the most beneficial for me. So of course, Krishna is saying, do your duty. At the same time, Krishna is saying, don't do it. So Arjuna is kind of somewhat bewildered here and saying, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. And equivocal means on both sides you are saying, do it. On the other hand, you're saying, don't do it. So therefore, clarify this. So then the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. So Krishna is saying that we try to understand this world and try to understand the depth of it by speculation, by experiments, by science, and others who are fortunate enough can take shelter of a self-realized soul, the spiritual master, and the scriptures, then they will come directly to devotional service. So in text 4, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So here Krishna is saying that if you don't do any work, it's not that you'll be free from any reaction of that, because at any point, there is always some action is performed by us. Even though you may be lying on a bed and in a very deep slumber, but you're thinking that, oh, I'm not doing any activity, but there are activities going on within your body. The heart is pumping, the liver is functioning, the kidneys are functioning, the stomach is functioning, the brain is functioning, and also your mind is functioning. You're going all over the three worlds in your dream state. So you are performing all kinds of actions. At the same time, Krishna is saying, nor by renunciation alone, that I will say, I've renounced everything. I have nothing to do with this material world. One cannot attain perfection. So here is a slide of men sitting in a very, very serene place and contemplating the physical nature of the world, the mental state, the spiritual. See, can we just walk away from this? Obviously, we cannot walk, because as long as we're in this material world, the physical world is here all around us, and the mind is there. Therefore, mental problems are going to arise from the mind. And of course, there is solace, the spiritual knowledge and spiritual guidance. So in text 9, Krishna is saying, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in this way, you will always remain free from bondage. So Krishna is saying that if you perform all your actions and sacrifices as an offering to the Supreme, then that will be the cause of relief from the bondage. Otherwise, Krishna is saying, if you perform this, otherwise it will be cause of your bondage in the material world. So work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. So very clear, Krishna is saying that what you are doing, you're doing it for me. I am telling you what to do. Just do it. That will free you from bondage. But otherwise, if you just act as an ordinary Kshatriya, as a man of war, army, and do your warfare to protect your country and citizens, then it will be just causing bondage in the material world. So, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. Of course, Krishna is saying his satisfaction means he's describing himself as Vishnu. And in that way, you will be always remain free from bondage. So we are in this world and we have success. Success is based on simple practical understanding that when you are doing your work, think as big as a boss. In other words, whatever activities you are performing, think that it is yours, not that you're doing it for someone else. Think like a boss. Work as hard as an employee. Just like you may be the boss of the company, but your employees are working for you, and they're working hard because they know if they work hard, they will get paid, and also they will get they'll satisfy the employer, and therefore employer will be gladly dispensing his compassion upon you. So work as hard as an employee, think as big as a boss, be as humble as an apprentice. So in our day-to-day activities, think that we are doing it for ourselves, but do it with justification and with loyalty, and at the same time do with humility. And if you do this, then our actions will lead to vision, and our disposition will be that we will be properly situated in our Krishna consciousness. So if we do our actions properly, then we will be in a proper direction, and we will be properly situated. As I said, the vision will lead us to self-satisfaction. And if you do it otherwise, as Krishna says in the previous verse, that it will be the cause of a bondage. So we'll be in a very disposition. Now the R of the tree in the 3rd chapter is rungs of the yoga ladder. These are described in the text 10 to 16. So in text 16, Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So Krishna is very clearly saying that in a human form of life, we have to perform our duties as prescribed by the scriptures, and they are all established by the scriptures, and we just perform our duties as described in the scriptures. Then it will lead us away from sinful life. Otherwise, it will certainly lead us to sinful life. Living only for satisfaction of sense, for the senses, for sense gratification, then such a person lives in vain, and he's always disturbed. Prabhupada is saying, the Mamonist, the greedy pursuit for riches, philosophy of work very hard, enjoy sense gratification, is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yagyas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of the 3 ways, namely karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. So the different rungs equals different levels of progress. So if you can imagine, you are on a staircase or on a ladder near the bottom level. So if you want to go to the next level up, you have to go to the next stage and next stage, next stage. So in this 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is describing how step by step we can climb the ladder of our progress to succession. So first is karma yoga. Karma yoga is action which we perform. Now, karma yoga means very important. This karma, we perform actions. And karma yoga is actions we perform according to the principles of Shastra given by the Supreme Lord. So if we perform our actions properly in karma yoga, then, of course, we'll lead our life to the next stage. Now, next one generally is called karma kanda. We are so busy performing activities and actions and in karma kanda. Karma kanda means that we want some fruitive results from our actions, and therefore we are performing our actions in anticipation of getting some results. What does Krishna say? Mahaphaleshu kadachin. Don't anticipate any of these results. Leave the results to me. Just do your duty. But mostly when we do karma kanda, we have anticipation for receiving something, and therefore we are encouraged to do something. Then next is sakama. Sakama is also action which we perform for receiving something. And then this niskama. Niskama is we do all performance of actions without expectation of any results. So karma yoga, performance action is there. Karma kanda, encouraging regulated sense gratification, brings the general mass of people to perform religiosity. So of course, if we do karma kanda according to the scriptural injunctions, which are also there in the scriptures, that gradually one will get purification. And slowly, as we get purification, then we will come to the platform religiosity. And when we come to the platform religiosity, means mode of goodness, where then we have a higher understanding of our actions which we perform. So sakarma is work with selfish expectation and your own interest in mind. So sakarma is basically that we are always doing all activities just for our own pleasure. We don't care for anybody else. We don't care for others. And therefore, that is not a very good position to be in. Therefore, Krishna is saying, be free from it and perform your activities as karma yoga in relation to the Supreme. And nishkama means doing seva, selfless service, without the expectation of receiving acknowledgement, reward, or word of thanks. So when whatever we do, we just do simply for the pleasure of others. We simply do those activities simply to please others without any expectation of acknowledgement or some reward or even thank you. No, we have to be very, very conscious of this. So motivation of religion, the different moods behind religious practice are there. So of course, as we are practicing karma kanda and jnana kanda, then we get to understanding of some religious basis. So these sometimes are out of fear, some material benefit, out of duty, and of course, one out of love. So this slide is very nicely saying the person is going to a confession box, confessing to the Christian preacher, the father, saying, Father, I have sinned. And the father sitting there on his computer on Facebook, he says, I already know because you have done, you put everything on your Facebook, all your activities. So I already know you. So anyway, it's this kind of humor to bring some humor in our seriousness. But basically, we have people following religious practice out of fear, some out of material benefit, some out of just duty, and most who are realized will do out of love. So the final or the E of the tree is exemplary, and then exemplary text 17 to 35 is there. In text 20, Krishna says, kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So Krishna is citing here an example of Janaka Maharaj. He attained perfection because Janaka Maharaj performed all his prescribed duties as a Satriya, as a king, as a father, as a husband. In every aspect, he performed all his duties perfectly, and therefore he achieved perfection. And therefore Krishna is saying to Arjuna that for sake of educating general people, please do this. And then Prabhupada says, kings like Janak were all selfless souls. Consequently, they had no obligation to perform the prescribed duties in the Vedas. Nonetheless, they performed all prescribed activities just to set an example to the people in general. So, of course, in Krishna is saying, whatever action a great man performs, common man follows. And whatever standards he sets, exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yet Acharya Sestas. Krishna says very clearly, that whatever great man performs, common man follows. So Janaka Maharaj, by his example, he was reached perfection. He was showing by his own activities how to do things perfectly and reach perfection. Here Krishna is saying to Arjuna that just for the sake of general people, you do these things and set an example. So Krishna is saying that if you do these things as a leader, as a great person, then common people will follow. So Prabhupada is saying in the purport, people in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that the teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. One who teaches in that way is called Acharya, or an ideal teacher. Therefore, the teacher must follow the principles of Shastra, scriptures, to teach the common man. The teacher cannot manufacture rules against the principles of revealed scriptures. In this connection, there's a quick story, and we are running over time, but it is an important story, that there was one lady, her child was eating too many sweets. So she took the young boy to the priest in the village, and everybody had tremendous regard for the priest. So whatever priest instructed, people would follow. So the mother took the child to the priest and told the priest that, please tell my child, he's eating too many sweets. And the priest said, okay, my dear lady, please come back next week. A week later, she goes back with the child, And the priest is sitting there very comfortably and tells the child, come sit by me. Very lovingly, he puts his hand on his head and says, my dear child, little sweet is okay, but overly indulging in sweet is not good for your health. You are a young man, so please don't eat too much sweet, but occasionally it is okay in moderation. And the young boy says, yes, Panditji, I will follow. And then the child got up and ran away to play. And the mother told the priest, you could have told this last week. And the priest said, my dear lady, if I had told him this last week, I would be a hypocrite, because I was also equally eating so many sweets. So for last 1 week, I stopped eating the sweets. So by personal example, now I'm teaching the child what to do. Otherwise, I would be a hypocrite. So it's very important aspect where Prabhupada is saying here that we should be an ideal acharya, an example, and teach by example. So in the ancient tradition of Gurukula, the student goes to the teacher and learns, and from him, the best teacher or the acharya is. It's not just about what you say. Tell what you do, explain why you do it, demonstrate how to do it, inspire to do it. So a good teacher will have a good understanding of how to impart this knowledge to his student, and therefore the student will be recipient of this knowledge in perfection. So in text 28, he said, one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, does not engage himself in senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So again, Krishna is saying, what is the difference between work in devotion, Sanatana Dharma, or Swadharma, fruitive activities? And Krishna is saying, one who knows this knowledge in truth, has proper understanding, and he does not engage in the senses or sense gratification. In text 31, those persons who execute their duties according to my injunction and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So Krishna is saying that those persons who perform these things according to my injunction, so like I am telling them exactly what to do. If you follow me, then you will become free from the bondage of all fruitive actions. The last E, which is the enemy. So we have learned from the Tyaga how to renounce things for the proper understanding. Then second, how to climb the ladder of devotion and work according to the teachings of the scriptures and the spiritual master. And E, by following examples of great persons. And third is the enemy. And this is the final E of the third chapter, enemy, which is described in text 36 to 43. So text 36, Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts? Unwillingly, as if engaged by force. So Arjuna is saying that what is that force which is unwillingly even making people follow sinful activities? Why they're engaging in that? So Supreme Personality of Godhead says, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So Krishna is explaining that it is, what is this force which is, forcing someone, impelling someone to act sinfully by force. And then Krishna is saying, yes, that is because that is lust alone, Arjuna, which is the cause of this. And where is that lust? It is sitting in your heart. The Prabhupada says in the purport, when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust in association with the modes of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath, and wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. So, as Prabhupada is explaining how there's a transformation from our pure love as our pure being, the spirit soul in his pure nature is pure and full of love for the Supreme Lord. When it comes into contact with material nature, then that love is transformed into lust. And as lust takes over, then we become uncontrolled in our senses. So generally, in this material world, we find lovey-dovey life. We want to enjoy lust. And lust is born of karma, sense gratification of all sorts. So in the overwhelming control of lust in our heart, we like to talk lovingly, expecting lovingly, enjoying lovingly, and immediately want results. And it is all based on selfishness. Me, and me. I and I. Do it for me. So even there is love between two persons, is basically based on I and me. So then when we take to Krishna consciousness, this is perfection. We embrace the Supreme Lord. When we embrace the Supreme Lord, then it's called love in prema. And when we have love in prema, it is all about giving, appreciating, serving, long-lasting, and selfless. So this is the highest perfection of prema. And if we transform the lust back to love of the Supreme, into rather from kama to prema, then this is what we begin to appreciate in our existence, in our activities, in our Sanatana Dharma. And what is that, our eternal Dharma? Giving, appreciating, serving, long-lasting, and selfless. So in text 38, it's explained, as fire is covered by smoke, as the mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Thus, the wise living entity, pure consciousness, becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. In text 40, the senses, the mind, the intelligence are the sitting place of this lust. Though the lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Through this lust, our true knowledge, our true identity is covered, and therefore we become bewildered. So where is this lust? Lust is in the senses, lust is in the mind, lust is in the intelligence. So in the senses, in the mind, and the intelligence are actually, Krishna is saying, are the sitting place of lust. And if you have to weed out this lust, purify your senses, purify your mind, purify your intelligence. So therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So of course, Krishna is saying the same thing here to Arjuna, that control your senses, regulate them, and kill this lust in your senses, in your mind, in intelligence, and then therefore you will have your knowledge and self-realization. Otherwise, this will slay. These are the senses, and slay the destroyer of knowledge. So when you slay this lust, then you'll be free from destroying your knowledge and self-realization. So it's very, very simple process. Unfortunately, we cannot appreciate this because we are still covered by the three modes of material nature of ignorance, passion, and goodness. And therefore, we are so entangled with the swakarma, then the Sanatana Dharma is kind of forgotten. So in this slide, very clearly, Prabhupada has given instructions, and the painter has painted very nice painting, which shows while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So in Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, text 62, it says very clearly that when you are beginning to develop attachment for objects of sense enjoyment, then that attachment leads us to lust. And from lust, when it is not satisfied, it brings anger and wilderness, and then we are lost in this material world. The Lord advises Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sin, sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of self-realization. So again, Krishna is saying that control your senses, regulate them by following proper principles of religion, and therefore you will control the sinful enemy lust, And when you destroy lust, then self-realization and knowledge of the self will take place. So in text 43, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind and intelligence, or almighty armed Arjuna, wants to steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. It's called Krishna consciousness. And thus, by spiritual strength, conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. So again, Krishna is advising how to control that insatiable enemy lust is by deliberate spiritual intelligence that wants to steady the mind, focus in the principles of Krishna consciousness, and therefore we will then free ourselves from lust. And how that can be done, this is given to us by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, which is the process given to us by none other than the same Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Daily chanting will transform our life. As we begin to chant daily, peacefulness will come, we will become very powerful, we will become beautiful, not beautiful in the material sense, but the soul's beauty will then permeate, and everyone will be attracted to you, the person, rather than the external beauty. And of course, the final cause is joyfulness, that you will become very joyful. So that process is very simple. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the process. So I bow down to you all with humbleness with this presentation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, just one sec. Yeah. Hare Krishna, just one sec, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare
This
Krishna.
was a very extensive, exposition or illumination of the first 3 chapters from the first 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. I was expecting some questions. So if there are any, I have not been sent the questions on my chat. So I would request the devotees to please unmute yourself, though I know it is already 5. No, what time is it at?
5:08, my time.
Yeah, 5:08. So it's 9:08 here. So some devotees who have joined us from India, probably it'll be late for them, 10:30 in India. So devotees, please, any questions, raise your hand so that we can take at least 1 or 2 questions before we call the session off. Hare Krishna. Okay, Rajamani Prabhu, unmute yourself, Prabhu. You can't unmute yourself?
Maybe you have control.
Just one sec, Maharaj.
Are you sitting in the garden?
Yes, Maharaj, we're sitting outside.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Very well.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for a wonderful explanation of Bhagavad Gita, first chapter to 3rd chapter. My question is, Maharaj, is Paramatma sitting in our heart? The Paramatma, some devotees sometimes says, the Paramatma is guiding me, in the early stage also. Which stage the Paramatma will guide the devotees to right direction?
Well, you see, as I mentioned in my presentation, that as soon as you approach the Supreme Lord, as Arjuna said, I am a soul surrendered unto you. Please guide me. Similarly, when a devotee surrenders to the Supreme Lord, and of course, sometimes directly, sometimes via his representative, the spiritual master, then that instructions come to you and guidance comes to you by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, by Guru and Gauranga. And immediately, as soon as you approach the Lord, then he says, okay, now that you approach me, I will now take control of you. But doesn't mean that he will now take full control, but he will take control as much as you allow him to. So sometimes devotees are fully surrendered, then Krishna is fully controlling you. If you partially surrender, then Krishna is partially controlling, guiding you. Eventually, of course, it will lead you to higher understanding. And that's why you're saying step by step, the rungs of devotional life, that you start from the bottom and then you climb one step and the next step, and gradually you come to the highest level, as Krishna is describing in the first 3 chapters of, well, mostly in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how to progress in these steps of devotional life.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. There was one hand up by Anupama Radharani Mataji. You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I actually sent you the question.
Oh, is it?
You can
Just
ask.
one sec. I'll check. Yeah. So, Maharaj, here's the question from Anupama Radharani Mataji. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my respectful obeisances. You said each of us have our own balance between Swadharma and Sanatan Dharma. When we are equipoised, we can understand we have found our balance. Thank you, Maharaj, for this powerful statement. Are Sakam and Nishkam Karma Yoga steps under Karma Yoga? From doing one's prescribed duties, attached to the fruits of work, to working in a detached manner. How is Karma Kand different from Sakam Karma Yoga? So there are about 2 or 3 parts, Maharaj.
Okay, basically the gist of it is that Karma Kanda is that those who have accepted Vedic scriptures as the authority, then in the beginning, the Vedic scripture is teaching you step by step how to do Karma Kanda. Means do ritualistic activities to get certain requirements, because that is the level of your understanding. So we are very easily pleased by performing Karma Kanda rituals and get results of it, so that you is result bound. But as you become more and more knowledge, then you go to a higher level of understanding. And as I said, that there are different levels of approach according to our own particular situation. So we will fit into that category. So just like, suppose, say you go to school and you are in a class of, say, 20 students, the teacher will understand each and every one of you. And because teacher is now beginning to spend some time with you, he or she will realize the capacity of each individual student, of what level of understanding they have, or the ability to grasp things. So there are some are super intelligent, some are medium, and some are not so intelligent, but they are still able to understand. So the teacher will then accordingly teach them step by step how to come to the highest level of conclusion or the understanding the subject matter which is taught. So similarly, in our daily activities, when we come into the fold of Krishna consciousness, then there are different understandings and guidance given to us, specifically by the scriptures. Then there is the spiritual master, and of course the Lord in the heart. And as we do that, then definitely we will have a clear understanding. So we are all situated in all our individual positions, and we are not all on the same level, but there is hope for everyone who has taken to the process of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, I explain in the whole aspect that there is Karma Yoga is action. Then there is Karma Kanda, then there is Swakama, and then there is Swadharma. Swadharma is selfless, is the highest. And Swakarma is that we have motivations, but still we are doing with a proper understanding. So as Krishna says, if you do activities with me in mind, then it will free you from sin. And if you do activities which are not with proper scriptural injunctions, then of course it is readily performing sin, and therefore there is consequences of that.
Hare Krishna. Anupama Mataji.
Hope that is clear.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe she is not able to unmute herself. Anupama Mataji. All right. So Hare Krishna, anybody else would like to ask a question, or else you can switch on your videos and we can say Hare Krishna to Maharaj, and the PowerPoint Maharaj would share with us. I will send it to everyone on our SOBS WhatsApp group. As I said, if you want to be on the SOBS WhatsApp group, please, I have sent my number. You can take it, 00968-976-82081, and then I'll add you in the group, and you will have the PowerPoint presentation sent on that group, which you can then use it to your advantage. Maharaj, I like the points that you raised in today's session, particularly where, there were so many points, but the one where you took us through that when you're lost, you should seek out, in the sense, sometimes when we are dealing with the material world, there are always chances of being lost. But if we can develop a seeking mentality and seek out, then for sure we can certainly get the right path, and on that path get the right guide, a spiritual guide. And obviously if we get the right spiritual guide, we will get to the destination, and that to the right one. That was a point.
This is all saying, seek and you shall find.
Absolutely. Seek and you shall find. So that is wonderful. Besides, every other aspect that you took up was fantastic, but thank you. That stood out for me. And yes, devotees, you want to say something to Maharaj? It's a good opportunity.
Maybe you can do the master unmute.
No, now everyone can unmute. Are you able to unmute yourselves? No? Okay.
Yes, Krishna.
So, yeah, everyone is able to unmute. Please speak up.
Yes. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, that was Ashish from Muscat. Anybody else?
Sir, I have a general question. Can I ask? Like not exactly to today's topic, but it's a spiritual.
Okay, please, Maharaj. It's a general question.
Go
on.
Yeah, what happens whenever we are chanting, or whenever we are doing, when we are in the spiritual feelings and various spiritual studies, there is some positivity that comes within us. So wherever we go or wherever we are there, like people like to interact with us more than actually it is required. Sometimes they take more time of yours. And we also being like, we feel good about everyone. So we don't like to ignore anyone. So, but after a certain time has gone, we realize that we have spent more time than what actually I should have given to that person. So how to deal with a situation where he should not be ignored and we should save time? And this is it I want to answer.
You see, you have to first of all see your own position, that what time you can give to that individual, and accordingly you give that quality time to that person, because obviously if that person is willing to inquire from you, then he is interested in the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. And in the 18th chapter we studied last week, Krishna says, there's none more dear to me than one who explains this message to others, especially those who are inquiring. So we should not think that I am spending more time than I should. It is a question that it is quality time you are giving to that person to free that person from his darkness and bring him to knowledge. And therefore, there is one more person who's going to come closer to Krishna. And of course, Krishna appreciates that very much. So we should be mindful in the sense that, of course, if you have other duties which you have to perform, then you don't sacrifice one for the other. But as I said, there is always that slide with the scale showing the balance. So you have to bring a balance. And if someone is interested and you tell that person, yes, okay, I am very thankful to you for inquiring, and I can give you this much time, but I have to go and do some other duty. Can you come back to me again and we can connect again? So then you can again associate with that person and give them again quality time and bring them to the forefront of Krishna consciousness. That is our business as preachers. Every time we are doing preaching, not a second is wasted. Every second is valuable. But every second which we use for other than Krishna conscious activity is just useless waste of time. As in Bhagavatam it is said, Shrama evahi kevalam, useless waste of time. So if you spend time for encouraging someone in Krishna consciousness, it is not a waste of time. But as I said, that you have to know your own position, where how much time you can allocate to that person during that interaction. And then if you can't, then you say, I'm sorry, but can we meet again? And then you exchange your contact numbers or something, and then you connect again, and then enlighten that person more to come to the forefront of Krishna consciousness, and then embrace Krishna consciousness. As I said, that if he chant, then purity is our immunity. And when he starts chanting, then we become beautiful. And that beautiful is not external, but it's internal beauty. And then internal beauty is there, we become very attracted to everyone. Everybody wants to associate with sadhus.
That I'm experiencing, frankly, not to that extent that you are, but in general, because whenever we are even going by the car and we are reaching somewhere, there is some positivity that we are carrying. We are doing puja from home, going in car. So everywhere the chanting is going on continuously at the back of the mind, Shravanam at least. So we feel like people like to interact, but then sometimes we should also know how to restrict or talk to them about Krishna more than any other topic.
That's what I'm saying, that you have to be intelligent enough to discriminate what is good and what is bad. So those things which will encourage the person, you interact, and other things, no, I don't have time for talking about mundane things. So, but I have to go and do something else. Can we meet again? And then that's how you do it. But a devotee always carries with him in his heart positiveness. He never carries negativeness. The only time you carry negativeness is when you yourself are confused and bewildered. Then you give others confusion and bewilderment. And if you are enlightened and in positiveness, then all you can give the other person is positiveness, because that's all you have to give. You don't have any negativity. So therefore, a devotee is always positive about his situation, his disposition, and he always wants to encourage others. Yes, come forward, take shelter of the Supreme Lord, chant Hare Krishna, you'll be happy. As Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna, be happy.
Hare Krishna. So we have another hand up by Radha Sakhi Devidasi Mataji. Radha Sakhi Mataji, please unmute yourself. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Dhanad Pranam, Maharaj. Please accept my respectful
Hare Krishna.
obeisances. I just had one question, how to explain this better to people who ask this question. In the beginning of the Gita, in the introduction, there is glorification of Gita Mahatmya, and in that there is glorification stating how it is more important to bathe in the, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, more important than bathing in the Ganges. And also then in the translation, it says that although there's no difference between the Lord's mouth and his feet, yet, significance is given, more importance is given to the Gita. So how do we explain to devotees when they ask questions as in, Krishna's name, form, qualities, everything is non-different, they're all the same. So why is there a difference between, bathing in the Ganges and hearing Krishna's words?
Well, you see, Ganges is kind of a ritualistic thing, really speaking, because Ganga itself is not just a water, but Ganga is a personality, and by quality of Ganga, she has that natural quality of purifying. So if you take a bath in the Ganga water, then of course naturally you will be purified, but that purification will be not as much as when you take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita is practically guiding you in knowledge to raise yourself from the lower level to the highest level. Whereas if taking bath in the Ganges is only sufficient, then there are people living up and down the banks of Ganges, right from the source of Gangotri all the way up to Bengal. And most people, because they're living very close to Ganga, they can take regular baths in Ganga. Or even if you have a boring well, which is taking water from the ground, there is also the Ganga water which spreads into the ground. So you're taking Ganga water every day. But you're not, all those people living up and down the banks of the Ganges or close proximity of the Ganges are very sinful people. If they were actually getting purification, then ideally they should stop performing sinful activities. They would be very pious and very generous in terms of, as we explained in the Bhagavad Gita, how the generosity is there, you're giving, loving, and you're selfless. But you find up and down Ganges, they're all selfish people. And you go to Mayapur, Sridham Mayapur is the holy dham. Not just the Ganges is going through that, but the holy dham of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And you have all these people who are living this, the Bengalis, and well, you can call them all Bengalis, but there are some Hindus, some non-Hindus, some Muslims, some atheists, they're all there. And they are not getting the benefit. Because you see, it is said that when you go with the right mindset, then Ganga Devi will embrace you. Otherwise, Ganga will not oblige to purify you. It is just taking a bath. Anywhere else, you take a bath, in Timbuktu or in Africa or in China or America, it's still the same thing. You will just cleanse the dirt from the body, but you won't cleanse the heart. But when you actually approach the holy river, Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati, Kaveri, Narmada, all these holy rivers, they will purify you because they have the purificatory powers, but only if you approach with the right mindset. Otherwise, you won't get purification. But my scope of understanding Ganga, just spend a couple of minutes, is that Ganga is not just the river flowing from the Himalayas into the Bay of Bengal. Every drop of water in the world is Ganga. Why I say that? Because the water from the Ganges comes, it is evaporated in the air, it becomes rain cloud, and it falls everywhere. And that rain water falls everywhere, which is Ganges water. And wherever Ganga meets, it becomes Ganga, it becomes pure. So actually water in the sea, in the oceans, in the rivers, everywhere are pure water. But our approach is wrong. And therefore, we think that only going to bed. You see, sometimes people living in Bengal, in Calcutta, where Ganga is there, they go all the way, some 3,000 kilometers to Rishikesh to take bath in Ganga, thinking Ganga in Rishikesh is purer than Ganga in Bengal. So this is just material estimation. The purificatory power of Ganga is there if we approach Mother Ganga properly. And therefore, purification of the heart will take place. Otherwise, just taking a bath, as Prabhupada says, elephant goes take a bath in the river and comes out back and it's become dirty again. So we go inside the river and take a bath. So I am now pure, but you come out and your thoughts become corrupt again, and then you become impure again. So you understand? And that's why Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahatma Gita, is said that as you take shelter of the Gita, step by step, the knowledge is there. And if you implement this knowledge, then of course it is highest. But just reading the Bhagavad Gita and not putting into practice, then it is of no value.
You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. All right. Maharaj, the point
Yeah,
that
there
you
is
made
some
on...
glitch, I think. Maharaj, thank you so much for the explanation.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, the point that you made on River Ganges, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, he, many years back, I remember he said that when you bathe, even normally, you can call upon the names of Ganga. So I've seen him taking bath, and when he would come to our part of the world, and he would say, Gange, Gange. And then once I was in the beach with His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, and we went into the beach I'm talking about in Muscat, back in the days in 90s. And we were doing our Gayatri. And he did the Gayatri, and then he also called upon while praying to the ocean where he was in, and he was calling upon Ganga, Ganga. So the point that you made, personally, I've witnessed that how at least two devotees I've seen calling upon the names of Ganges. So that is a wonderful example that you just gave, Maharaj. Thank you.
Also, like, in our Pujari work, we chant the Ganga Chaiva, Jamuna Chaiva, the mantra to make the Achman cup into Ganges water.
Wow.
We all don't have liters and liters of Ganga water from India.
Right.
But that is a Shastra. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is said that when you chant the mantra to invoke all the rivers into the Achman pot, when that becomes the holy river and holy water, then you use that for your pujas and your Achman. So it is a state of mind, basically,
Yes.
Spirituality is not based on material, time, place, or location, but it is spiritual is beyond this material world, and therefore these holy rivers are not material, although they appear less like the deity. He is made of stone, but at the same time, it is the Supreme Lord, non different from the Supreme Lord, and therefore he is beyond the stone.
Right.
But just for our senses cannot perceive these things, so they manifest in these transcendental ways to come and grace us, so that we have opportunity to become free from our fallen position.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maharaj. And we'll take one last question. Dinesh Prabhu has raised his hand. Dinesh Kumar, please go on.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Danut Pranam Maharaj. My kind request question, Maharaj, that as you explained very nicely today in the last 3 to 4 slides, that Bhagavan Krishna is saying to Arjuna that by discipline he should try to curb lust. So this discipline part, Maharaj, is it same for all? One question, that is it same, or does this discipline part is according to the level of understanding? And second part is, Maharaj, that does this discipline is, we can say that by chanting Hare Krishna up to a fixed number of times, one will be able to overcome this part? I mean, the discipline is that also we can consider? Kindly explain, Maharaj.
Yeah, I mean, basically, see, discipline is a question of self-control, and, discipline doesn't have a yardstick that you can measure. Either you are disciplined or you are undisciplined. So basically, Krishna is saying to Arjuna is that control your lust. Control this lust, which is causing you so many problems. And as Krishna says, it is lust which is your enemy. So to conquer the enemy, you have to conquer that lust, which is the cause of your anxieties, your confusion. So the discipline is that we follow a set of disciplines which are given by the scriptures, the guidance, the do's and the don'ts. So in the material world, you see, suppose you come to a company and they say, okay, we'll give you the job of this position or that position. So the person who is going to employ you, he will tell you now the do's and the don'ts of the company. So if you follow that discipline of the do's and you don't do those things, then you are happily employed in the company and you'll make progression in the company, and the company will embrace you. But as soon as you start doing the don'ts of the company, then you're going against the discipline and the principles of the company. Then the company will say, my dear friend, you are fired. Then you are disbanded, you see. So even in the material world, there is do's and don'ts. So in every respect of every activity, there is do's and there is don'ts. So we have to be very knowledge what is the do's and what is don'ts. That is what is called discipline. That if you follow the do's and reject the don'ts, then you will be considered a disciplined person. in every aspect, spiritually or materially speaking. That is at least my take on it. And chanting, of course, will increase your enthusiasm to become more ardent follower of do's and reject the don'ts. It gives you strength. Holy name gives you strength.
Jai.
Thank you, Maharaj. See, all glories to you, Maharaj. You
Hare
explained
Krishna, Hare
such a
Krishna.
nice
Always
way.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we will end the session here, and so all of us can pay our respects to Maharaj. Vancha kalpataru vyascha.
Ya kripa sindhu
Vacha.
Patitanam,
Vidana Pavanebhyo
Namo Namah. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj,
Maharaj ki jai.
His Divine
Guru
Grace
Srila
A.C.
Prabhupada
Bhaktivedanta
ki
Swami.
jai.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Maharaj, at least you can have darshan of all the devotees, and devotees have darshan of Maharaj. It's a nice. So, Maharaj, quickly I'll say there is Lakshmi Pati Prabhu, Sadanand Srikant Prabhu, Murlidhar Prabhu, and Anuswaya Mataji, Anupama Radharani Mataji. You can keep saying Hare Krishna when I say your names. Arun Nair, Gaur Das Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Achara Mataji, and Vijay Mehta Prabhu,
Hare Krishna. Maharaj.
Dinesh Kumar, Radha
Hare
Sati
Krishna, Maharaj.
Mataji,
Hare Krishna.
Rameshwar Kanai Prabhu from
Hare Krishna
Sharjah,
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Tulasi Mataji,
Hare Krishna
Mohini,
Maharaj.
Mohini Rupa Mataji,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Kuladipika Mataji,
Hare Krishna.
Sarvagya Mohan Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat pranam.
Bhaskar Prabhu, Radha Priya Mataji, and then we have Hema Sundari Gaurangi Mataji,
Okay.
we have Brajnath Prabhu,
Hare Krishna. Hare
Vijay
Krishna Maharaj.
Prabhu. You can say Hare Krishna, Vijay Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Partha Sarthi Govinda Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Rajamani Prabhu. Then we
Hare Krishna
have
Maharaj, Arkinas devotees.
Tarsem Prabhu. Then we have Venki. Venki is on the line. Then Gauranga Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Geeta Mataji, Subhashini Padma Devi Dasi Mataji, and Balaram Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Madan Mohan Prabhu, Devadas,
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Dharma Devi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Then we have Pratyush Kumar Prabhu,
Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
and then we have Sunaja Mataji. Then we have Nitya Narasimha Prabhu,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat pranam.
and we have Nisha Sunil Kumar, and we have SRDD.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is
Hare
Shubhangi Ratika Devi Dasi.
Okay. Jai. So Maharaj, that was a little bit of a introduction to everyone. We're going to have, after you reach India, obviously the next Saturday we'll meet you for culminating the Bhagavad Gita's first 6 chapters. And then we're going to have another party with you. So please, all the attendees, we're going to get together and have a party with Maharaj for his Vyas Puja. So be ready. Okay?
Sure.
And
Yes,
in
Prabhu.
that, we will just listen in from Maharaj on the importance of Vyas Puja. And then we all individually will have a chit-chat with Maharaj. We will get to know him, and I would like that he gets to know you also, okay? A little more than that he knows about all of you. That'll be wonderful, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Everyone excited? All right. Maharaj, we've got some work for you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Very grateful to Maharaj from the bottom of our hearts. We look forward to your association more and more, Maharaj. And thanks to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare